Joining me in the Room podcast for the first time to talk about his huge amateur middleweight title fight for NEF at NEF 54, fight at the Opera, is my buddy, Brett Martin. What's up, my man? First time on this show. Welcome, bro.
Hey, good to be here. I know we've talked a bunch at the fights, but it's good to hop on the show.
Yeah, definitely always see you in the back room with some training partners who have been fighting on cards. And you did tell me someday I'll be chatting with you, Steve, getting ready for fights and all that. Here we are, man. You haven't stepped in the cage for almost a year. So let's get to that, man. Your last fight was at NEF, of course. Last September. What was the layoff? What's been going on in the last year for you?
Yeah. So life kind of caught up all at once in the last year. I was pretty actively looking for some competitions in the meantime, and stuff was just kind of falling through. Had some health stuff. I actually got diagnosed with something like similar to celiacs, and so that kind of like threw my weight a little off for a few months while I was trying to figure out, how to eat without having gluten, which was a whole new methodology there. As well as, I'm building a house. I started my own business, and my fiance competes as well. So we're trying to balance that. So someone's always available to take care of, the animals and like the house and stuff like that as well. So kind of just been hecticness that delayed it, but I'm super excited to be getting back in there. It's long overdue. So.
Excellent. Well, you mentioned the gluten-free lifestyle. Now, looking at a lot of people out there, man, that's a big thing nowadays. So I'm sure you found the resources and the information to get you going, man. How's all that going? How's the diet nowadays?
Oh yeah, it's like you said, the resources for it are so much better now. I can't imagine, going back even 10 years ago, having to kind of adapt to that diet because there's just so many replacements for regular stuff now. I can go to a restaurant, and get a sandwich and not have to worry about them not having an option for me. And so really just kind of like being cognizant and not being afraid to like speak up in order to request that stuff has been really the only issue with it. But, the longer that you are without gluten, the more your body reacts heavily to it, which I learned the hard way. So when I accidentally got the wrong order and I like gained 10 pounds overnight, and it just like swelled right up, and it was not ideal, but it's gotten easier and easier as the time's gone. So
excellent. Well, good for you, man. Well, you are back. When did you? What was the timeline when you were saying to myself, "Hey, I'm ready. I can train for a fight." When did that happen?
Yeah, so I actually was going to be looking to try to get on this pass card, but I actually had the two weddings that I had this year. I was actually out in Chicago during the last card, and that's actually when they presented the name of Lee to me. And I was like, hey, I love the matchup. I think it's a really, really fun fight, but I'm just not available. I'm not even going to be around. So it was actually while I was at that wedding that we confirmed it for this card. And so there's a picture on my Instagram of me eating this giant plate of food, which is like my last meal of like really, really cheating. But yeah, so we had like exactly 8 weeks out, which was perfect. So
Awesome. Well, how's it feel, man? I mean, I know you've been training, for the last year, even going through this. I'm sure you're getting your rounds in there somewhere. But how's it feel to be back into a training camp, getting ready for a fight?
Oh, it's a different vibe, and like I sometimes have to talk with teammates and stuff too, because like I'm a pretty mellow guy. Like I train hard, but I'm not on a kill switch all the time, and so. Suddenly we're in camp and I'm kind of flipping that switch a little bit more and pushing the pace a little bit harder. And I kind of have to like tell people sometimes. I'm like, hey, like you gotta tell me if it's too much. Like you gotta communicate with me, because like we're pushing for a real fight right now. It's not just adapting skills at this point. Like we have 8 weeks to go for the kill. So that communication was huge. But like you said, I haven't stopped training in the whole year, even with my health stuff. I'm in the gym, at least 6 days a week. I'm just like, that's my pastime. That's my hobby. So,
well, I know even when you're not getting yourself ready, you have training partners that are, getting ready for fights. A lot of good stuff coming out of, your gym. You got First Class MMA. I know that's a gym that I'm familiar with a lot of fighters coming on there, but where are you getting your other work at gyms? And talk a little bit about the training partners and the rounds you're getting with some guys around town.
Yeah, absolutely. So my other main gym is the Shea Institute with John Panette. Actually, Ernesto will be in my corner for this fight as well as for Felipe's fight on this card. And so we kind of have that marriage. John Rayo, our head coach, fought out of both those gyms. As soon as he opened it, he was fighting out of both gyms. And so, like, kind of getting back to those roots has been really good. The striking there is just absolutely phenomenal. I visit Titan whenever I can. I'm good friends with Ed Davis, and actually my last opponent there, Brandon Oldenburg, is over at that gym at this point as well. And there's just a really good crew of guys there. Sorry, my dog might be hopping the frame here for a second.
No, that's all right, man. I invite animals. I'm an animal lover, man. So the more the merrier.
Yeah, but yeah, so those have been like my main ones this camp, largely just because I've been so hectic with additional work and stuff like that. But normally, I really like going out and visiting as many different places as I can. I love going and visiting the guys at Karasu Tengu. We're starting to try to develop a relationship with Nostos. We've been talking with them a bit, and just timing wise hasn't worked out. But there's a big demand. I think, and I think I've heard you talk about it as well. But kind of like New England versus the world. Like, yeah, locally we're against each other, but when it goes to a bigger stage, New England kind of needs to back each other up and push each other forward in order to make a statement on the big stage. Which obviously we're all behind. Grimard and Davis going into those fights this week, and so. It's been a good camp. Not as much travel as I normally would like to do, but it's still been really good looks. So
Excellent. Well, you mentioned your fiance being in the fight business. I do believe she's fought in the past, grapples, kickboxes. Is she on this card? Like, I know I've talked to you in the past about her behind the scenes, but what's going on with the fiance there?
yeah. So she's grappling on this card.
Okay.
She had. I'm guessing it's probably either going to be like the very first bout of the night, but she's going against. I forget the girl's name that she's going against, but it's out of Evolution, I believe. Who's the girl's a really solid blue belt, probably about to be a purple belt. Competes a ton. My fiance Alicia, she had a kickboxing bout last November against Melissa Santos, who just debuted. And
Tough girl. Tough girl.
Yeah, absolutely. She's a scrapper.
Yeah.
She's with Jake Pila's camp.
Yeah.
Like they're all scrappers there. So, and she went to a split decision with her, and it was a really really fun fight. And obviously, any split decision, especially being her number one supporter, I'm going to be upset with. So I'm going to always think that she won. But it was really good experience for her, and now she gets the chance to get this grappling match in the cage as well. And in the very near future, you'll see her have an MMA bout. So
Excellent, my man. I'll keep her. I'll keep her in mind, man. I'm sure we'll chat down the road. But let's get to this fight, man. You mentioned, Matt messaged you in about this name. Was the title in that conversation at first? Was that always, hey, I got a title fight for you, or was it a name first and then the kind of title came with it?
yeah, so it was more the name first. I kind of initially was looking at it as a 3-rounder. I just kind of, and I'm very, this is how I am in general, but I was kind of like, oh, I've been out for a year, get one back, and then come off that win and then try to go for the title. But obviously Lee's kind of traveling a little ways too, and so like when we presented it to them, they were like, yeah, we want it to be a 5-rounder, and so that's kind of when it developed into the title shot, which I'm down for regardless. I love the idea of a 5-round war. I think longer fights. I'd love if fights were just unlimited rounds and just go until someone gets finished. But it's exciting. I think the 5-rounder makes everything interesting. It changes the dynamics, how you come out versus there's a 3-round fight. It's you can kind of push through it. Sometimes in that 5-round, the cardio starts to change really quick. So have to really change the approach to how I'm doing my cardio, how I'm timing the explosiveness and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Like, there's definitely a difference between, getting ready for a 5 round fight and a 3 round fight, but you kind of explained that. But let's get to this opponent, man, Lee McHugh. He's been busy in the last year. Like, he fights consistently, kickboxing, grappling, has a bunch of, I do believe, what is he, 4-6-2 or 4-2 or 5-2?
He's 5-2 right
Five
now.
and two,
Yeah,
so he has
yeah.
much more experience than you as far as being in the cage and getting that work, man. Seeing this guy, he was on your radar. What excites you about him, and what do you know about him as far as his work in the cage?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually get to see one of his fights back at Combat FC. I think it was the very first Combat FC. He was going against I think the guy's name's Fabio Alano. No, that's not right. Fabio Alano, I think, is the former UFC guy there. But he was going against a debut 185er who was super like legit grappler. He's a black belt. And so he was going against a debuter with, having a bunch of fights. So he's taking a bunch of risk on himself because, like, the challenger kind of can go in there and not have to stress about it. He used to go perform. And he just came out the gate swinging, man. He was just came across the cage and he just backed him up and was just throwing at him. And then he just ended up getting kind of caught by a check hook. And then the black belt there was able to grab his arm on the ground. But like up until that point, he was just like throwing hammers and like just going after him. So, and that kind of seems to be his MO. He's super athletic. He's, I think he's like 5'11", but he's like a power lifter. He's got a purple belt. He's got some wrestling. So he's super well rounded, which is what I am excited about because I know that he's going to put me in spots that are probably going to make me have to like change up and really react quickly. And I'm going to have to try to make him uncomfortable as well. Because if I sit back and don't take the front foot, he's going to take advantage of it because he has the ability to do that. And like you said, just tons of experience. He's very, very active. So really having to go out there and, take the center and not be pushed over by the athleticism is going to be a huge part of it. And so, that it really excited me when I saw it because I was like, yeah, dude, he might try to take it to me on the feet. He might try to take me to the ground and grind me out there and do some damage. Like there's a massive amount of possibilities of where the fight can go. And I think that's what makes it interesting. If it's a one-dimensional fight, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
it is what it is. But, this fight could go anywhere, which I love.
Yeah,
So,
definitely excitement for a fight back, man. And kudos to you for taking a title fight and taking on a kid with a ton of experience, a winning record, and a guy that's like consistently getting in there. That's a great fight for you. It's the amateurs, brother. You mentioned, beating each other up in New England, but, supporting yourselves out of here. He's coming into your backyard, though, bro. He has never fought for NEF. You've had, all your fights, only 3, but still, you have training partners. They just fight at NEF, and you are part of the NEF family, man. What are you thinking as far as being that home crowd and how you think they're gonna? I've been at NEF fights, man. I know how the crowd is there, dude. It's a different crowd, and they really support their fighters, tooth and nail. What are you expecting the welcoming for Lee to be like when he steps foot into that cage?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping, as you know, I'm big on the martial arts respect aspect of the sport. And I think a lot of the people who follow me are bringing that as well because I'm not, a supporter of anyone who's going to, be talking trash to my opponent unless like there's a legitimate issue, which clearly there hasn't been leading up to this. So I think it's good to have that support from my fans and stuff like that and my friends and family. But one of my training partners, Dalton, he always says like, I would much rather have it just like we sign the paper and just go into a cage and not have to worry about any of the prep, just go in and perform. Because at the end of the day, once you get in there, a lot of times everything else gets blacked out.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can hear your coaches. Hopefully you can, be thinking on the fly. But before I might hear the fans and after I might hear the fans, but like while we're in there, I kind of just black out and I kind of just am locked in the whole time. So, it will be cool. I think it's fun to be the bad guy a lot of times going into someone else's backyard, like you were saying. So I bet he's going to embrace the role and come and, take the title from the hometown guy. But I'm here to try to defend my turf as well. So.
Excellent, my man. Well, a couple more questions here. This is your third fight for NEF. You seem like you're ready to get it going. How busy you looking to stay? Are you looking to? I know you looks like everything's going cool for you on the
Yeah.
outside. Business, house, fiance, animals. You got everything going on the outside. So you're going to be juggling a few things. How busy you looking to stay as far as this amateur career, and what's your ultimate goal leading into maybe 2024? And
Yeah.
maybe the end of it.
Yeah. I think this is a huge kind of litmus test for where I'm at, right? Like, depending on how this fight goes, like, obviously the goal is to go in and try to dominate, right? But like, seeing kind of, hopefully he's going to expose some holes that I need to know that need to be filled in order to move forward, right? So I would like to get, somewhere between 6 and 8 fights as an amateur before, turning pro. I would like to turn pro in the relatively near future. But again, the only way to test that you're ready for that is by facing the best guys at the amateur level, which, as you know, there's guys that are Amis at the top of the Ami division who are pros that just never turn.
Yeah.
There's some absolute monsters that are in the Ami division. So, and I think Lee's one of those guys. I think he has all that experience. He's like 22 or 23 and has all this experience. So he's going to be one of those guys that I get to go up against and really test to see where I'm at and challenge myself in every different area to see what we need to do to move forward. So, if he puts me on my back and I, am getting smothered there and can't get out, it's like, oh, geez, Brett needs to, get his butt off the mat and do a little bit better doing that, or like any other area that might come up. So, yeah, it's a really, really important thing to test yourself in those different areas. And so hopefully finding out what happens from this fight will dictate the kind of opponent we want to move forward with in the kind of fighter that we will match up with to really challenge those other areas that are going to be needing development. So.
Perfect, my man. Well, last question before I let you give your shout outs, any sponsors, social media, all that good stuff. What do we expect to see from Brett Martin at NEF 54, challenging for that amateur middleweight title, my friend?
I'm hoping for a war of attrition. I want it to be I don't want it to be a decision, but I would love, like a 3 to 5 rounder where we're just, battering each other and, making it whoever has to go out on their shield and just someone has to wilt at some point. I think those are the most entertaining. I think those are the ones that you grow the most from. And so that's what I'm hoping to bring for myself as well as the audience. So.
Excellent, my man. Well, that's all the audience needs to hear and see, my man, to get them blowing up that roof. Last question before this, it's at the Merrill Auditorium in Portland. Have you ever fought there?
I haven't. So I've been there to see the fights. The first time they went there, my buddy Felipe, he had fought Hannon Sanford. I think that was like his third fight at the time. And I think that was one of the very first cards I actually went to because I had started training, I think maybe 6 months to a year before then. There was a card in Bangor that I went up to see, and then I had gone to the Merrill Auditorium one. And so I loved as a spectator the venue because it's just so open and there's like just tons of space there. And that's kind of what I'm excited for being in the cage as well. Because like I fought at Aura, I've fought in Bangor, and I fought at the Doubletree there with Combat Zone. And the openness of the Doubletree, I was a really, really big fan of because like you can kind of just see out, and Bangor was like that too. Aura just felt claustrophobic for me. It was just kind of like you could smell the breath of the people in the audience.
It's like a tidal wave coming over you. Like people, they're hovering on you and everything.
Yeah. It was very gladiatorial, which I thought was cool because it kind of embraced the fight sport. But I think Merrill Auditorium is a really cool venue, especially with the amount of the quality of fights they have lined up for this card. I think it's a perfect venue for it.
Excellent, my man. Well, it's going to be a great event. Grappling, your fiance will be there. There's some boxing involved, and of course, some great MMA prospects and great fights they're putting on, pro, amateur. So, with that said, man, congratulations on getting back in that cage and having a huge fight as that first fight back. You're taking no shortcuts. You're taking on a proven fighter here. a guy that's going to bring it to you, and we can't wait to watch it. So with that said, Brett, last thing, shout outs, sponsors, social media, and I'll let you get back, man. Is a couple,
Yeah.
less than a couple of weeks before you make that walk.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, like we were saying, my social for Instagram is at Grumpy Kitten and Moose. That's my nickname growing up was Moose, and my fiance we always called Grumpy Kitten. So, yeah, I got the moose going here too and stuff. It's always been part of it. But yeah, obviously, anyone who wants to add me on Facebook, it's just Brett Martin. There's a picture of me with my eye all swollen up from my second fight, so it's pretty easy to tell who it is. Yeah, sponsors. I had a boatload of sponsors for this one. I'm going to be posting some stuff on my socials there, thanking them in the next week here. But yeah, no, there's a big shout out to my main gyms there, First Class MMA and Shea Institute for all the blood and sweat they put into me. So.
Excellent, my man. Well, bro, it's been a pleasure getting a word with you on, the other side of the mic. It's great, man. Welcome back, man, and we'll definitely be watching. I'm not sure which of us are gonna be at the show, but I'll definitely be watching the stream if I'm not cage side. So with that said, man, you have a great lead up to the rest of this training camp, and we'll see you on September 2nd, correct?
Yeah,
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 all
that's
right.
right. Yeah.
There you go, my man. So we'll talk soon, Brett, and thank you so much for the time, my man.
No, my pleasure, Steve. No, it's been catching up.
All right, my man. You take care.
All right, man. Hey, take care.